Welcome along to episode 25. I'm Cam. I'm the host of the Lifting in Life podcast. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm a personal trainer and I also work in IT. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Henry Lin, who is a Natural Bodybuilding Pro and also a coach with a master's in Dietetics. Honestly, I'm not sure if I've laughed this much on a podcast episode before, and if you give it a listen, I'm sure you will see why. But even though it was funny, it's also filled with lots of tangible learnings and things you can apply straight away. And today I want to switch it up a little bit. Following this little intro, I am going to put together a compilation style introduction as well, which I might do for future episodes as well. So I'm super keen to hear your thoughts. So if you like it, or even if you don't like it, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. And on that same note, any support you can show for the podcast helps me grow this platform and continue to get these awesome guests on. So whether that's you subscribe, you leave a comment, you like, you follow, whatever it is, it all goes a long way and I very much appreciate it. So thank you for tuning in, and remember, you make you. I did hear that.
You did hear that. So, and then the other half of that question of like, is the plan just too restrictive? Well, then the simple answer is yes.
So, I'm going to stop eating takeaways. I'm going to stop drinking alcohol. Like, okay, that could work for 2 weeks.
Dietetics is essentially short for medical nutrition or clinical nutrition. You're cutting out an entire food group. Of course you're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
I got to figure out a way so I can travel and work at the same time. So we've covered the training into the nutrition side of things. How do we put on as much muscle as possible? Because I feel like we got on this call and immediately we were like, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
So what I want to ask is, how are you, man? Because, bro, I haven't spoken to you in so long.
It's been ages, man, because we competed in, that was 2018 we competed, right?
2018.
Yeah,
and we still use the same photo. We still recycle the same photo.
And
I don't
think I ever got that photo like sent to me. So it's constant. It's just a screenshot of a photo as well. Maybe I got it sent to me, but I swear, I just use a screenshot every single time. But all right, here we are. We're going, Henry. Thanks so much for joining me. We finally made it happen. Bit of a funny story getting this one to happen, but we're here nonetheless.
Yeah, man. Time zones, bro.
Right. I was telling some people at work about it today, and for those of you listening, I might as well briefly explain it. It was Taiwan you were in, right?
So
you were in Taiwan. I was in the UK. We thought we organised and locked in a time, but then you didn't know I was in the UK. So I woke up to all these messages from you, and that one where you're like, "Gee, are you dead?" I just lost it, man. It was so good.
Bro, it was on a weekend too, and I remember setting everything up, and I'm like, this motherfucker. Yeah. And then I thought, nah. Like, this guy's probably in some serious trouble, and he's probably dead. Like, because he wouldn't do this. It's his podcast.
The only excuse.
yeah, exactly. And so, when I found out that you're in the UK, bro, when did you go to the UK again?
We've been here for 3 months now.
Fuck. Yeah, see, I thought you were still in Christchurch. Was it Christchurch? You're in the South Island.
Wellington.
Close. Down south. Close.
It's not Auckland. It's south somewhere. But anyway. Okay. We made it happen. So today.
Thank you so much for having me, bro.
Oh, yeah. Hey, the pleasantries. No worries, man. Thanks for coming on. So obviously, natural bodybuilding and being a coach is your thing. So the main objective today, I'm keen to obviously learn about your journey and understand how you turned your passion into a profession, all that kind of good stuff. I'm really interested in that space. But then obviously I want the people listening to come away from this episode with some really tangible stuff that they can implement straight after listening to this episode, whether that's losing body fat, wanting to gain muscle, that kind of stuff. So where I want to start with that tangible stuff. And Yeah.
right out the gate.
Right. We don't
And I'll
muck
just
around that.
Trojan horse a little bit of my backstory in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
What do you
definitely
think?
get
What do you
there.
think about carbs? Well, when I was 8,
When I was in the womb. No, okay, here we are. So, oh yeah, I want to start off tangible with tangible question and then explore your journey a little bit. But straight off the bat, from your experience as a coach and also your personal experience, but more so as a coach, what are the common mistakes that people make when it comes to dieting or cutting down? Obviously, it's quite a broad, quite a generic question, but are there like common themes or key mistakes you see people make when they're attempting to diet or cut down?
I feel like I have to make a list right now.
Yeah.
First one that comes to mind. Oh man, just because this pissed me off yesterday. First thing that comes to mind is dehydration.
Oh,
So
nice.
I had an athlete of mine, a client. I call them athletes. I had an athlete of mine come to me and go, "Oh my god, I've just had a chat with like another random bro science coach, and they were trying to talk them out of our usual peak week protocol, which is we don't dehydrate." And they're like, "Oh, I just want you to be looking your best. And are you sure you should be not dehydrating and not depleting yourself to like 0 carbs and just eating fish and beans and shit?" And so that was 30 minutes out of my day trying to
Yeah.
calm this motherfucker down. My athlete motherfucker. Try to
Mm.
calm, yeah, try to calm them down. Just be like, no, 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 it's okay. Like, this is what actually happens in the body when you don't dehydrate. So, yeah, just because it happened yesterday, that's going to be my
Yeah.
number one.
And that's
Do you want me to go
obviously
into why?
and which that's competing specific. Is that only peak week you're isolating that to, or do you mean like, because that's obviously water cutting, but do you mean dehydration in general, or is that just the specific peak week protocol there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, peak week.
Yeah.
Peak week protocol.
Yeah.
Dehydration.
Yeah.
I don't
Makes
know why
sense.
you would dehydrate just on a regular dieting day.
Yeah, yeah. I was
Do
wondering
people
if
do
you
that? I
meant
don't
more
know.
like people not consuming enough water every day, as opposed to that like cutting the water for peak week. But that makes sense for athletes. What
I see. I
about
see.
more like outside of competing specific, like just dieting in
Mhm.
general?
Okay. Yeah, that
I
was a
love,
very vague question. Give me some
yeah.
specificity, bro. Done.
So okay, I'm a. I'll set the scene for you more specifically.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
say,
What's the target audience of this
yeah,
podcast? Because I've gotten a lot of questions about like, hey, so this podcast that you've been like talking about, your mate from the UK, what's
yeah.
it about? I'm like, lifting in life.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start off big. So, Lifting in Life, essentially, the podcast is about using fitness as a foundation to talk about bigger ideas. That's like the broad slogan. But the more episodes I do, the more I try and make it very tangible as well. So, I love to explore those big ideas, like how, for instance, we want to get into you transitioning from turning a passion into a profession. That's a big idea thing. But then I
Mm-hmm.
also really like it when people listen to the podcast and can get tangible information from the area of expertise from the person who's on, i.e., you being a nutrition and dietitian coach, and you're very qualified in that space. So, to make the question more specific, could be athlete related, but let's say I'm a 22-year-old guy. I'm like maybe 18 to 20% body fat, and I want to look good on the beach. So I want to get down to like 11 or 12%. And
Mm-hmm.
if I was that person, and let's say I was doing it myself, I wasn't under your expert guidance, and where would you say that a person like that typically falls short of their goals, and for what reasons would they miss their goals in your experience?
I see. Okay.
Mm.
I see where you're going with this. I think it's got to be the all or nothing mentality,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think a lot of the times when people go on diets, they end up thinking of it as a super restrictive thing. And anytime they deviate from the diet, they end up punishing themselves and making themselves feel really guilty. And it kind of just creates this like scarcity effect, you know, we're like told that we can't have something. We like wanted a little bit more. And it creates this like weird fetishization of food. Could you hear him fart?
I did hear that.
You did hear that?
No, I didn't know what it was though. I didn't know what it was, but I did hear a noise.
Don't edit that out. Keep it in.
This is just advertising for the podcast. That's the clip right there.
Special cameo by Amy Hidden.
I'll put his like Instagram handle or something in it.
Yeah. So we got a home office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
We can go into that a little bit later, because that's kind of how this whole like passion into the professional thing happened. So yeah, I think for a lot of people, like they just got to take it a little bit more chill with the whole dieting process. Like, just keep moving forward. If you have a terrible day with eating because, I don't know, you've had a bad day, you left your lunch at home, your train was late, your boss is a cunt on the day, you know, like shit happens, right? If you fuck up, just keep rolling forward. You still have tomorrow. And it's that cliche bullshit example of like, if your tire pops and would you go and slash the other three? No, absolutely not. Yeah, like, so I would say that's really one of the biggest ones is people not being like patient enough with themselves on that journey and trying to get everything done in like 2 weeks time, when they could take it a little bit more chill and take 3 months to do it or 6 months to do it, right?
It's like having that long-term perspective on it, as opposed to, obviously, like, it's almost like human nature. We want things as quickly as possible. Like, obviously you would want it as quickly as possible, but would you say in a scenario like that, obviously there's the external like niche situations where like your trainer's late, forgot your lunch, those kind of like more isolated things. But from a higher level perspective, would you say if someone is constantly, I think you said fetishizing?
Yeah, fetishizing.
Oh, I'd say fantasizing. But anyway,
if
they're fantasizing over these foods and like constantly having these cravings and feeling like they're gonna fall off their diet, would you say that their plan that they're on is probably too extreme and doesn't meet them where they're at? Like, do you think the plan itself is flawed if they're constantly having those kind of cravings and fantasizing about foods outside their plan?
Yes and no, because it could be that the plan is flawed and too restrictive in nature, but it could also just be that they're too inexperienced with this way of thinking about food. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As in, sorry, I shouldn't say do you know what I mean, because the whole point is for me to elaborate.
Continue.
You know, we can move on. I'm a head out. That's podcast done.
Next.
Okay, so I think in terms of mindset, just in terms of the people that I work with, even the non-athletes, we usually have two kinds. One group of people would be the people that want to stick to a plan. You know, they've kind of figured out that, hey, I actually just really want to do this. I want to fall into the process of things, and then at the end of it, have the results kind of come out as a byproduct. And then there are the other group of people that go, damn, I just really, really want to be jacked and shredded. So the way that these two people these two groups of people approach things is what I'm trying to say, or how I'm trying to answer that question, right?
You go.
There could be nothing wrong with the plan in itself, but it's just how they approach it. One person could be like, I just want to stick to the plan because I know that this plan is going to get me the results. And then the other person's like, oh man, I got to stick to this plan to get the results.
Yeah, that's exactly like what I was going to say when I was going to talk to them. It's almost like that first person is evolving their habits around food and their routines with food. So it's like the process leads to the thing, whereas the other person is like, I just want the end product that this thing is going to get me, and like, man, it sucks having to stick to this thing, and they're almost like counting down the days as opposed to looking at it like a lifestyle change.
Yeah. Yeah. People that want to stick to it, they become the person with the amazing physique first, right? They become the person by having those routines in place, having the thought processes in place. You don't get the body you want and then become the type of person that does those things to get that body. You got to become the person first.
Yeah. No,
Is that a little bit too abstract?
No, I get
No.
that. It's like you have to like adapt your lifestyle and your habits and embody the new thing, as opposed to thinking I'm on this 12-week plan to get shredded. It's like this is the new way that I now eat, and this is the new way that I have my meals, and these are the new foods that I eat, and then like gradually it's going to get you to that end product instead of just looking at it like this 10-week or this 12-week block of time while I have to eat chicken and broccoli, to get to the where I want to be for my wedding or where I want to be for New Year's at R&V or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so that was,
And
if we pull it back a little bit, that first problem was, how would you summarize? Like, it's like almost as if it's too extreme, and they're like thinking about it like a binary switch where they're like, I'm not dieting, I am dieting, and then it's too extreme, so then they almost inevitably fall off, or at least have a very negative experience with the diet.
yeah.
What would you say? Yeah, you go.
So it was like the whole cravings thing, right? If someone has
Yeah.
cravings, is their plan shit? That was the original question. Yeah. So
Even before that, like, how would this person fail on their diet? And then we delved into they would fail because it's too extreme, and then we went down the cravings loophole. So what I was trying to do is like pull it back. So they failed because it was too extreme, or they're trying to go too hard too soon. What would you say would be another reason that this person wouldn't reach their 10 or 12% body fat goal by summertime?
Another reason. Wait. Hold on. I want to go back into the steps. So
okay, yeah, you go. This is your podcast.
No, because I feel like we went from the main quest to the side quest to another side quest. So I want to come in 100% this side quest to go back on the main quest.
Yep, let's hit it. I'm in for it.
I'm one of those guys where, like, if I play a video game, I do all of the side quests first.
Oh yeah, you have to complete it all first. You can't move on until it's complete.
Yeah, is that you as well?
I feel that. I feel like I don't want to move on to the next level because you haven't actually completed the level. Even though you could, you haven't actually completed it. You still got to collect 17 more coins back in level 2. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then these boss fights are just weak as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Weak sauce.
Okay. So, and then the other half of that question of like, is the plan just too restrictive? Well, then the simple answer is yes. If you're having if you're having trouble going from eating 100 grams of chocolate a day to 0 grams of chocolate a day, if you're struggling with that, why not just go to 50? Go to a level where you're not struggling and then taper it down. Right?
Yeah, I love, and that's precisely meeting the person where they're at. Because so often, I'm sure you would have seen this in your experiences. Okay, I'm coming to you as a lifestyle client. I eat takeaways 8 times a week, and I drink X amount of alcohol in the weekend, but I want to get shredded in 10 weeks. So, I'm going to stop eating takeaways. I'm going to stop drinking alcohol. Okay, that could work for 2 weeks, but that's far too restrictive. That's not actually reducing things at a sustainable rate. That's something that they can actually stick to over a long period of time.
Yeah, definitely. And I personally think losing weight is so easy in the sense that let's just take a general population person and they come to me and they ask me, hey, how do I lose weight? My answer is always going to be this, all right? We all know what parts of our diet is healthy. We all know that what parts aren't so healthy. And so I'll just get them to repeat that out to me. Like basically just give me an answer of areas in their lifestyle where they think is good and bad. And usually it's like, okay, well, when I go to the gym, that has a positive outcome on my goal. And when I order takeaways 5 times a week, that has a negative impact on my goal. Cool. All right. So now we've got a good thing and we've got a bad thing. We dial the good thing up by 20%. We dial the bad thing down by 20%. Is this manageable? Yeah, you could eat takeaways 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. Well, then there we go. It's already better.
Would you say the main pushback on that, I feel like we've already touched on it a little bit, where I feel like when people want to lose weight, they want to be on a diet. I'm doing keto, I'm doing fasting, I'm doing this insert diet name here kind of thing. Whereas like the approach that you're taking there is like we're gonna like implement a long-term lifestyle and habit change. It doesn't sound sexy, it doesn't have a name.
I was just gonna say it's boring.
Yeah, but it's that boring stuff that gets people their results, right?
Yeah, 100%. As a dietitian, I'm triggered, man.
Yeah.
What the fuck is keto?
Yeah.
You're cutting out an entire food group. Of course you're going to lose weight.
Yeah. It's a calorie deficit.
Yeah. If I stop paying my bills tomorrow, of course I'm going to save money. Fuck.
But eventually I'm going to have to pay some bills again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good analogy for it, actually.
Thanks, man.
All right. That's all good. Are you confident that we fulfilled that side quest?
Yeah. Thank you.
So we can pull it back to the quest before that, the main quest?
Yeah. My OCD.
So the main quest. Yeah, no, this is good. Systematic. I like it.
Yeah.
So the first one there,
Main
where we delved down the rabbit hole, was based upon this person starting a diet and it's too restrictive. So then they inevitably get cravings and probably fall off the bandwagon. Where would you say would be another area that this person would like not hit the mark in, so therefore not reach the goal that they wanted to reach?
Mm-hmm. Well, then I guess it comes down to not knowing what they're eating.
Yep.
So I know I opened up with a super vague answer that no one wants to hear. I probably should have gone with this one first.
No, this is good.
Eating the wrong foods. Fuck, how much sexier does that sound? That soundbite.
Yeah.
Eating the wrong foods.
Thumbnail. Do you eat wrong food?
And what I mean by that is, it's not like eat these 10 foods to get shredded, but more so in terms of calorie density. Let's take a fruit, for example. Just an average handful serving of fruit, right? About 100 calories. How much would that fill you up compared to 100 calories worth of oil, which, for reference, is about 2 teaspoons, right?
Do you mean 100 mils?
Did I say 100 mils?
You said 100 calories.
Oh, yeah, no.
Is that right? Yeah, okay.
So 100 calories of fruit, 100
Yeah.
calories of oil,
Yeah.
right? How fast can you eat an apple?
Not super fast.
Not super fast.
No.
Yeah.
But 100 calories worth of oil, I could just slurp it down. It wouldn't be very nice, but I could do it.
Well, absolutely not. But let's take a bowl of soup, for example, right? And I put in a tablespoon of oil. Are you going to taste the difference?
Probably not.
Probably not. Maybe if you're looking for it, yeah. If I added in 2 tablespoons of oil, you're going to taste it? Still probably not. 3, okay, now we're just taking the piss, but you get my point. Right. So choosing the wrong foods, a really big example. All right, let's get even more tangible with this. You're using cooking oil rather than spray oil,
Yeah.
right? When you pour that bitch into the pan's flat, right? So you don't actually know how much you're pouring in because it just keeps disappearing. So I find that when most people pour oil into a pan, what they think is 1 teaspoon is actually closer to like 2-3 tablespoons.
Yeah.
So just by by minimizing how much oils and fats that we use, we can, I guess, practically lose, some weight just by doing that.
Yeah. And fat specifically, why would we focus on fat specifically for people who don't know about calories and macros and stuff?
So a gram of protein has about 4 calories, a gram of carbohydrate, 4 calories, a gram of fat, 9 calories.
So, and what would be some typical fat sources that people might just snack on or add in? We got oil, that's an obvious one. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to cook up some chicken, so I pour half a bottle of oil in and not realize that it's a whole bunch more calories. Where are some other areas where fats kind of sneak in?
Nuts is such a good one because everyone's like, yeah, nuts are healthy fats. Well, yeah, but it's still calories. Like, it's good for your heart, but still bad for your waistline, bruv. Right? I mean, okay, still consume these things, right? They're still healthy fats that are good for your health. So the recommendation isn't to not eat fats, but rather reduce the total amount of fats that you're having, and of the fats that you are consuming, make sure that they're more healthy fats than unhealthy fats.
And it's like almost the main thing there is also being mindful of the amount that you're consuming, right? Because you go from like, 50 grams of nuts to like 100 grams of nuts might not tangibly look like a big difference, but in terms of the calorie input that you're having, it can be massive. So whether you, I don't know, maybe have a quarter of a cup or you weigh it out or something, so you have a designated portion of this thing rather than blowing out your calorie intake without even hardly realizing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And with nuts, like, because it's a snack, right? You're not, eating a plate of nuts. You're just grabbing a little bit, eating it, fucking off, coming back, oh, there's more nuts on the table. And you pick at it like that. When you drip feed yourself, you don't really register that you're eating. It's just a habit. It's just a thing that you do.
Exactly. And you're probably like, even if you're watching Netflix or something, that's a snack that you would have there too, and you'd smash a whole bag of peanuts without even realizing it.
Yeah. So calorie-wise, in terms of how it translates into your calorie intake and your fat loss journey or whatever, a bag of chips is just as bad as a bag of nuts. There's
Even
another soundbite.
There it is, bag of nuts. Even if you say this one's unhealthy and this one's healthy, if you're purely looking at the numbers, like they're still, the input is still the same. It's still 600 calories worth of this little snacky food.
Yeah. One's going to give you a heart attack, but both are going to make you fat.
We got so many clips in this podcast so far. So with this scenario of this person wanting to shred for New Year's, we covered the diet is too restrictive, and then we covered these sneaky foods that sort of come in. So the tangible takeaway from that is probably like, as best you can, having an understanding of what you're consuming, right? Might not have to be a specific, like super specific plan right down to the detail, but at least would you say being mindful of what you're consuming or have an understanding of what it is that you're consuming?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Knowing what you're eating as well. Because most people can't remember what they had for breakfast. No. So when you're making that decision of whether or not you can have a curry for dinner, it kind of pays to know, like, okay, well, did I already have hash browns, bacon, and eggs for breakfast, and then a burger for lunch, right? If you're trying to be mindful of your diet. Because barely ate in the morning because you were just that busy, and lunch, you've got a shitty little salad because that's all you could prepare. For dinner, you could probably get away with a curry, and it would, still be more conducive to your goals than if it was like the other scenario where you didn't pay any attention at all.
Yeah, so, and this is probably a fun little rabbit hole that we can go down actually, but I'm sure you get it all the time, but do people come to you and ask you about really specific foods? Like, do they say, should I eat brown rice or white rice? Or like, is pasta bad? Or is mayonnaise bad? And like, what I would typically say is exactly what you said just there, is like, you can't look at these things in isolation because you have to take into account everything that you're consuming. So when someone comes to you with a specific scenario like that, how would you provide the education for them?
Depends on the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you've noticed, I like to use a lot of analogies. And I think money analogy kind of, seems to be relatable for a lot of people. So I guess it's going back to the whole money thing. If you're trying to save money, like, is there a specific thing that you shouldn't spend money on? Well, that depends on the individual. If you're what are some costs?
I love where you're going. Like, what I thought of straight away is like, should I have, or is it bad to have ice cream after dinner? It's like, well, what else do you spend your money on? Is it bad to spend my money on this thing? Well, no, because you're not spending your money over here. But if you're also spending your money over here and wanting to spend your money over here, then you probably shouldn't have it be. But in isolation, it's not a bad thing. It's how does it relate to the bigger picture?
Yeah. Cool. Okay. If you relatable. If you're trying to buy a house, right? If you're trying to save up money to buy a house, you can't have your morning flat white and your avocado on toast as well. Is it bad to buy avocado on toast? No, but if you're trying to save money, you got to consider what other things that you're spending your money on. And it's all about trade-offs, right? Like, you could find that ice cream after dinner just makes that much more of a difference to your diet. It makes you happy. It feels like, yes, I've had a really good day of dieting and I'm going to reward myself with something that still fits my budget, right? If you've got the money to spend, if you've got the calories left over to spend on the ice cream and it makes you that happy to do it, go for it.
Yeah. And I feel like the extra positive benefit there is that if that ice cream also prevents the person from wanting to spend their money elsewhere, like they're satiated and they're content with that, then it feels like a no-brainer to keep that in as long as like they can. But I like that money analogy. That works really well.
Yeah,
I rate
money
that,
in,
man.
money out. It's budgeting.
Yeah.
I like to make the joke
finance.
that I am a macronutrient accountant. Because quite literally, I am.
Yeah.
But that ice cream thing, I did a prep. I did a prep 1 year where I had at least 2 beers a night. Just I was probably drinking it during dinner time. I just really enjoyed like having a beer while I cooked my chicken or rice and stuff. But I had it every single night, 2 beers for the entire prep, just because I wanted to prove a point. I want to prove the point that, hey, as long as that you're on point 99% of the time, you can afford to let loose a little bit. Because I think with, not just with bodybuilding, with the general perspective on dieting, it's this like really restrictive process. And I just want people to see it the way that I see it. It gives me routine. It's not that hard to stick to. It takes the decision fatigue out of what I need to eat. And I look fucking amazing by the end of it.
That's the extra, the bonus at the end.
Yeah. And when I'm not competing and I'm building muscle, okay, then I can go and be really loose with my diet. because I don't need to be shredded then, right? So I'm not missing out on anything. This is the only way that you can have your cake and eat it too, is if you, if you accept the diet and then, I have no idea what I'm trying to say. I feel like I just hopped onto another train of thought.
No, this is good. Keep going. Did you lose that train of thought?
I think so.
If you accept the diet.
Yeah, if you accept the diet for what it is and you just ride the diet out. This is totally a different train of thought, by the way.
No, this is good. And then were you also going to, I feel like the thing you could add on to that is that also understand that you can make it work for you too. Like it doesn't have to be this one only chicken, broccoli and rice diet. You can include a few things in there that work best for you that you really enjoy too.
I 100% agree with that. And I think that is so important for people dieting. Yeah, for people dieting. They don't include enough variety. That would be another thing. That would be another thing that they would miss the mark, going back to the main quest.
Yeah, nice.
I think where I was going with that is kind of just like addressing the idea that dieting is this like super restrictive journey. Just kind of like providing a different perspective on it. Right. So I personally don't see it as a super restrictive process. I see it as a way for me to enjoy my food in the off season, but also like being shredded. And that's what I was trying to say with having my cake and eating it too, right? You can't enjoy the food first and then get shredded, but you can get shredded first and then enjoy the food.
Yeah.
I feel like that doesn't make sense either, does it? I'm doubting myself now.
It still makes sense. Yeah, I also like the component of decision fatigue that you talked about too. If I like pulled it back a little bit there, when it's like the benefit of being on even in the off season, I'm sure you're on a rough plan. Like the benefit of being on some kind of plan, it takes away that decision fatigue because you know that in the morning I have my eggs on toast. For lunch I have my rice, my protein, and my vegetables. But then like you can include the 2 beers or the ice cream or whatever it is that kind of works for you. But that stuff like the 2 beers or the ice cream or the takeaway meal in the weekend doesn't hit the same if that's your everyday kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And just by having that little exposure to it, you take out the fetish for it, right?
Yeah.
You're not at a random house party that you're not even enjoying, going like, oh man, I wish I could get plastered and go into a K-hole with these guys. It's like, oh, well, I can, I had a beer yesterday while I was cooking my chicken on rice. That was chill. This is cool, but I don't want to put myself in that position where I'm like super wasted.
Yeah. And you're content with it because you know what the plan is and that's you sticking to the plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Or a less like extreme example, like chocolate.
Yeah.
Right. If you have a little bit of chocolate, and I've started building chocolate into one of my athletes' plants, mostly girls, because I find that little, you can either have 1 egg or 20 grams of cheese or 10 grams of chocolate or peanut butter, like giving them the flexibility and the autonomy to choose that. It just makes the dieting process that much easier. They're like, oh my God, I can eat chocolate. And so when
it's like a slither of entertainment too, like or stimulus, you're like, oh cool, I get to choose what I want.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So when they see a block of chocolate at work that's free, they don't go, oh my God, I need to have that now. It's like, I had that for my last 3 meals because that's what I wanted to have instead of the eggs or the cheese or the mayonnaise or Yeah,
I rate that. That's cool. Now, maybe we kind of park this one now. I feel like we explored that pretty well.
Yeah. I was looking over because we were just talking about the prep of where I had a beer a night 2 beers a night. And I won the overall champion for Wellington, your hometown.
Oh, damn, bro.
Yeah,
That's a
boy.
sick trophy too. Are
Thank
those
you.
stars holes? I was going to say if they weren't, you could drink a beer out of that. That would have like
Thought
kicked it
about
off.
it.
Yeah. That's so sick, man. That's actually a good segue because I want to explore your journey now as a bodybuilder for people who are listening and don't know you. Obviously, you've been doing the natural bodybuilding thing for, I want to say, what is it? Maybe like 7 years, 6 years?
Competitively?
That'd be about right. Yeah. When did you start competing?
Nah, gee, 2012.
2012, was that your first show?
Yep.
Damn. So, like, what was
11
it
years
that
competitive.
first. That's sick, man. What was it that first, like, sparked your interest in bodybuilding and wanting to pursue such an interesting and arguably difficult sport?
I'm fucking Ziz, bro. I'm fucking Ziz, bro. You Marin, bro? Yeah.
And then we chopped to you at, like, R&B, like, cutting some shit. Perfect.
I think that was like when I got into bodybuilding. Prior to that, though, I was an athlete growing up. I was always really interested in sports. I love playing sports, and so I was always looking at ways to improve my performance. One of those ways was obviously nutrition, right? I kind of just like gravitated towards nutrition for whatever reason. And so when I hit puberty, and I saw that my physique was changing a lot with the work that I was putting in the gym, I was like, sweet, I'm not getting anywhere with basketball. Like, I'm not competing with those guys in the States. That was actually a really painful realization. Spain without the S, bruv. But yeah, that's when I guess made the career change. I was a weird kid. I was coming home from school, going up to the courts and just like getting my shots in every day until sundown, because I was like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna become a professional basketball player, and hard work beats everything, right? There's no substitute for hard work. Bullshit.
Right.
Life ain't fair. Accept that, you little bitch.
It's a reality check.
Yeah, man. So when I realized that with bodybuilding, I was progressing that much more, I was like, yo, time to switch. Time to switch sides.
And then what did your first show look like? When did you know? Because obviously we're going to the gym, but when was it that you thought, okay, I want to step on stage in my undies and get a spray tan and see how we go? What was it that sparked your interest in actually wanting to pursue the on-stage element of putting on muscle and getting shredded?
Okay. So I was 16 years old, right? I was exposed to fucking zebra, and the following year, so I started to train a little bit more for like aesthetics, right? Which wasn't a very complete program. Like, I was just training a lot of my upper body, and what I thought leg training was just squats. So I did a bunch of squats. That's why I've got no hamstrings, just quads. And the following year, and so this was still last year in high school, I saw in our gym, it was like Tony Martin's bodybuilding team. You know, we're going to put together a little team to go into a random competition. I think it was like a NABA one. And go in as a team. So I went and spoke with Tony, the gym owner, and I was like, hey, Tony, I want to join the team. How does all of this work? And he was just like, oh, yeah, mate, just get shredded.
What?
Just get shredded and come see me every 2 weeks. We'll have a look at how you're going. Just get shredded. I was like, yeah, sweet, I got you, bro. Don't even worry about it. I'll get shredded. And so I did the best that I could. I was brought up really studious. So I read a lot of bullshit, to be honest. But I did the best that I could to get shredded. And I think at one point I was dieting on like 1,300 calories.
Oh, nice. What was your body weight roughly at the time, do you think?
Okay, so I was a 17-year-old boy doing sports like probably 5 days a week, training sports, and then weights
plus the weights
5 days a week, and also going through puberty. So like my energy requirements were like way
through
up
the
there.
roof. Yeah.
Yeah. I should have been dieting on like 2,400 calories at the body weight of 70 kilos or something, and still would have gotten lean. And if only I had taken like 6 months to do that, man, I feel like the start of my bodybuilding career would have been that much better.
Yeah.
But I was one of those instant gratification cunts.
Oh yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah.
So then you obviously got accepted or initiated into the team through your cutting experience. And what was your first show like? Like stepping on stage for that first time, what was that like for you?
Dude. It's 11 years ago.
Like, were you scared? Were you nervous? Excited?
Do you remember what it was like for your first show?
Yeah, I feel like I was. Well, I feel like the whole idea of like actually being in speedos and stepping on stage didn't really hit me until like the day before. You're so deep into the cutting, and then you step on stage, and like I feel like I was still more excited than anything, but you're so nervous, man, because you're literally stepping on there in your undies, and like a whole crowd of people is watching you. But I still feel like it was more positive than it was a negative experience, especially afterwards, obviously, because you get the massive adrenaline hit and like you're like super pumped afterwards. But it's more like, how did you find the pre-stage, like just about to get on stage?
I don't think the undies bothered me that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always just been a bit of a nudist, to be honest. Like, always just trying to get my shirt off. No.
Like, oh, I have to wear undies?
Oh, no. So are the undies compulsory? Because you can see more lines, like...
You wear those ones that you wear in the tanning booth? Those, like, temporary, like,
the
mesh
G-strings?
ones? Yeah.
So, no, the undies never really scared me. It just made sense. Like, I was doing a bodybuilding comp and I need to show off my muscles. So this was the most logical way of logical attire. But I think there was an element of just being scared, being nervous, I guess, anxiety.
Yeah.
Definitely really excited. I remember that. But the nervousness was just more about like the unknown. Just more about like, how is my physique going to look on stage? What are the other competitors going to look like? And yeah, just not really knowing what to expect.
Yeah,
but I think apart from that, I don't really remember.
Had you gone to a show before you did your show? No. Damn. Because I was going to say, like, each show like seems to be a little bit different too in terms of the like you go up there and you hit a few poses first, or you go up in a line straight away, or I found like if you're talking about the little bit of unknowns, that was a unknown for me that kind of like created a bit of angst. Was, oh, okay, it looks like we have to go up and hit 4 poses first and then go to the side.
Yeah.
So there's like the unknowns in terms of the actual formalities of the show too, right? And like you don't want to look like a dickhead because you didn't do the right thing, or you're standing in the wrong spot or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then over time you realize that, oh, it's not this little sequence that you have to rote learn and memorize. You just listen out for the calls. Yeah.
And then you can flow with it. Like you can do your own little thing too. You don't just have to hit those mandatories if it's just your little presentation.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realize you were so young when you did your show. That's quite interesting. So the question I want to ask is, did that pursuit outside of your school and stuff, is that kind of what dictated what study you did post school? Because obviously you've got your qualifications. So was that the main sort of inspiration or idea behind what you chose to study?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So I think the papers that I chose in uni it was like classical studies.
Oh yeah, like the Greek gods and stuff. You're like, yo, it looked like the Greek gods. Very in line with bodybuilding.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that, but
Yeah,
it's all making sense.
yeah.
It was criminology and like psych. There's exercise science and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And I got accepted. I think nutrition was always like my main thing because bodybuilding is a lot to do with nutrition, right? I think as far as sports go, bodybuilding is probably like the heaviest nutrition kind of sport, right?
Yeah, or like the one that hinges on your success. If your nutrition is bad, you can't be successful. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
but if you're like a basketball player, right? Doesn't matter. If you're good, you're good.
Yeah, might make you like 5% better, or like you might optimize your recovery or something, but you're not you're not judged on how lean you can get or how much muscle you can hold. So
might make you better for 45 minutes rather than 40 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So definitely bodybuilding was the reason why I studied nutrition. And I guess like being brought up Asian, you know, like just you got to do uni, and if you can do a master's and a PhD and then a fucking fellowship, I don't know, man, like you just keep going with that shit. So
do as much as you can.
Yeah. So of course I did the most Asian thing and got a master's degree out of my hobby, way to ruin it. And that's kind of how I fell into the whole being a dietitian, being a bodybuilding dietitian.
Yeah, I'm quite keen to delve into that a bit more deeply. So it sounds like before you even went to uni, you had like a motivation to turn this thing into a profession. It wasn't like you'd been doing it for 10 years bodybuilding or something, and then you're like, okay, I want to turn this into a profession. You already kind of knew that that was the path that you wanted to take before you even went to uni.
Yeah, actually. I was, I don't know. I remember as a kid just being really focused on like my career. Like when I was in high school. Oh man, I remember in intermediate school, so in like middle school, I remember having the goal of getting accepted into an Ivy League school in America, like a university in America, for some weird fucking reason. Yeah. And
where'd you get it from? Like a movie or something? Or you're just like, that's what I want to do?
That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. I guess I just wanted to safeguard my future as much as possible. My mum never really put those pressures on me. And I don't know. I think do you know like the Asian tiger mom stereotype?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't want to be racist or anything, but I get where you're going with it.
You know what I mean when I say tiger mom.
Yeah.
My mom wasn't like that, but I tiger child myself. Yeah, maybe it's just in the culture. I don't know.
Damn, bro.
But
so you already had these high expectations on yourself while you're even like before you even at uni, like going through school, you already like had these expectations of yourself.
Yeah, my mom's just in the corner, like, don't even need to do anything.
Just doing it himself.
Yeah.
And how did that, when you were doing your studies, obviously because you were passionate about the bodybuilding and the health and the fitness, how did the studying align with your passion? Did it sort of take you away from it, or did it make you more intrigued and want to learn more about that space you were already interested in?
So a lot of our degree was learning about like the different diseases. So dietetics is essentially short for medical nutrition or clinical nutrition. And so I wanted to learn about what foods you shouldn't eat to lose fat, and basically like how do we eat for performance. But what they were teaching was like all of the foundational work, you know, like what happens when you get a cancer patient who's got second-degree burns with kidney failure, how do we feed them and and help them recover through the process. which
You're
is
like, bro,
cool.
I just want to look like Ziz.
Relatable.
Far out, man.
Yeah. So I had to learn all of that bullshit to kind of get like the little bits of the sports stuff that I like extracted out. I think the most helpful thing that my degree taught me was critical thinking. How do we think about nutrition? Because then I can use that framework and then look at the things that actually interested me, and extrapolate those things and go, okay, how do I take these findings to put towards my bodybuilding prep or whatnot?
Yeah, and that's arguably a lot more beneficial than just learning the specific ins and outs of calories and macros and like input versus output. Like having a strategic framework at which you can approach problems and help people solve them, I feel like is a lot more valuable than just knowing how many calories are in protein and all that kind of basic stuff that you can learn easily.
Yeah, so in hindsight, I'm really glad that I went through that experience. But fuck me, those were the worst 5 years of my life.
Still sounds pretty dry at some points, I feel.
Yeah, man. It was hectic, bro. And like Tiger Child, right? I was not partying at all. I camped in the library the entire 5 years, and my only non-study time was bodybuilding, because bodybuilding was also another way that I could set up my future.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really go out drinking. Regrets. I went too hard.
That's heavy, man. But like you were only doing what felt right at the time. It's the ironic thing with regret, right? You're like, if it was the right decision for me at the time, there's no point in regretting it because I worked the best with the tools that I had at the time. And so you can't regret it because that was the right decision for you that suited your circumstances. But
I like that.
still, university is a time for having fun too. But like, hey, if that was like what you felt was right at the time, then you can't regret it. But once you had finished your degree, it sounded like a bit of a tough slog, but you were very dedicated. Did you jump straight into a profession? What did that look like actually, like getting your first clients and stuff like that? What was that initial phase from, the completing your degree to then actually turning it into a profession?
So I graduated, and the following year I worked as a research dietitian with University of Auckland and then Massey University. And immediately I was like, man, fuck this place. I don't want to work in like the corporate world. Like, I don't want to work for someone, right? Because when you start off, you're just a bitch, right? You get thrown under the
Just
bus.
have to do whatever you're told.
Yeah. You basically get micromanaged, and I wasn't about that. So I was like, okay, well, I want to. Oh, and I went backpacking right after my degree. I only went for about 6 weeks.
Oh, nice.
But that was when I fell in love with traveling, and I thought, okay, like, I got to figure out a way so I can travel and work at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I was trying
Whereabouts did you go backpacking? Not to get too deep into that, but I'm just intrigued. Where did you go backpacking for those 6 weeks?
Don't take me down any more rabbit holes, man. I'm so good at doing that.
Just a one-word answer. Where did you go?
Cuba, Mexico.
Nice. Okay, cool. I was just intrigued. Cool. Back to the story. So that inspired you to want to have your own business and be able to travel and also work at the same time.
Yeah. So that's where I first had the thought of, I want to travel and I want to work. All right, how do we still use my degree and everything that I've built to pursue that lifestyle? So in that first year when I worked as a research dietitian, I was also working on my nutrition thing on the side. And getting clients was really through... Well, to be fair, like, it wasn't too hard getting some sort of an interest, because I'd been doing bodybuilding from that point, it was like maybe 5-6 years in the game already. And so people...
So you were doing shows while you were studying that hard too?
Yeah.
Damn, that's heavy, man.
Yeah, that was just stacking up my CV, you know, because didn't matter if I come last or whatever. In 10 years time, no one knows. I've still got a medal. I whipped this out because this was the one.
Hey, 2018.
Yeah, this was the 2018 one. So you've got the silver and I've got the bronze.
Yeah.
Touching that right
now.
What
was that? No.
Yeah. So I thought
that's why I haven't competed since, bro. Just so like you could never beat me.
Thanks, bro. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's very thoughtful.
Yeah. Nah, no worries, bro.
Yeah. I was competing all throughout that time, and throughout my bodybuilding journey as a teen and a junior athlete, people knew me as the guy that was studying, like the young guy in the scene, the kid on the block that was studying a dietetics degree. And so I kind of already had that bit of association with, this guy's probably just going to become like a bodybuilding coach anyway.
Yeah.
And so
kind of like you're building a brand without even having the business set up. Yeah.
Yeah. It was essentially that. And that's why before I got out of my teen years, before I turned 20, I'd already done 11 shows.
That's intense, and that's so many shows when you weren't even like, you're still only competing in the teen category.
Yeah, in the teens.
Damn.
Yeah, but it was just stacking up my CV. Because I also went into a few shows like not ready at all.
Yeah. But it's almost like you're doing filler shows, so you can still say, hey, I've competed in 11 shows, or I've competed in 17 shows, and you're still going to get experience.
Yeah.
So did you find that when you wanted to start your own thing, you already had that brand built up, so you like had a few clients straight off the bat? Or what did that initial sort of onboarding some clients phase look like for you?
Yeah, so people were already like kind of asking, and I'm sure people would ask you all the time, like, oh, can you write a diet plan for me?
Yeah.
And so
you go to the gym, you must know how to therefore coach me.
Yeah.
How do I put on muscle? Yeah.
So you take a few of those leads, I guess, and it's kind of like scratching a lottery ticket, because when you're that inexperienced, you're not a good coach. And also it depends on the person as well. They could be a super useless person, or they could take everything that you say and actually execute it like they're meant to and get good results. And then you have this cool before and after photo that you can then post up, and then you get more people be like, oh my God, can you write me a diet plan? And then you have to scratch a lottery ticket again to see who's actually going to put in the work. And then you get another cool before and after transformation. And it builds like that until, I guess, leading into now, where I'm just where I'm a bodybuilding coach, and people know who I am because I'm the natty bodybuilding coach.
Yeah, and you're not scratching so many lottery tickets. I assume that a lot of people that come to you are serious, and they're going to do the stuff that you've like just laid out for them.
I've waited so long to get to this point of my career. Like, I can actually do my job and not just like be a motivational speaker.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that actually, because you mentioned like you had this vision of traveling and also doing your business, and obviously you've just got back from being in Taiwan for what, maybe was it 6 weeks or something? Maybe you were there too.
Yep.
How does it feel to have reached a point now where you're still so young, but have like that dream that you had has actually come to fruition? How does it feel to be in that position?
Just looking around for sunglasses right now because I feel cool as shit. Yeah, no, seriously. I've been having a lot of these thoughts recently, and like, not to be kissing my own ass or anything, but like, man, I'm so proud of myself. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And it shows you the power of making a really specific goal. Like, obviously, you know that from, I want to compete in this bodybuilding show in 16 weeks. That's a specific goal, but like, you created this specific, like, long-term goal of, I want to be this person who can travel and also do my work. And like, you've already achieve that. Like you're not 50 or something and to finally realize that goal. Like you've realized that so early on in your career. And I suppose the next follow-up question to that is like, what's next for you? How do you continue to progress? What is the next goal on the horizon for you?
The next goal
Yeah. Or like if you had this vision of being the
In my
person who
business?
can, yeah, maybe. I feel like we're already there. 'Cause I'm just interested in this. Like you created this vision from a
Mm.
young age and you brought it to fruition. So now that you're living out this dream, is there something next that you see yourself doing?
Yep. So there are a couple of projects in the works already, and it's not like this is my end goal or anything. I
Yeah,
just love progression. I think life
yeah,
is the biggest RPG game that I will ever play. So why
right,
not set
yeah,
a high score? So I like progressing because also just like fills the time, right? Work
yeah,
will set you free.
yeah.
uh,
That's right.
but a few things in the works is I've currently got this coaching app that's happening. I've been working on it for a year and a half, and I'm
Dope.
really good at procrastinating. So that's
Nice.
yeah, I feel like we're close. I've also split my coaching roster into a bodybuilding team and a lifestyle team, just
Cool.
because with the way that I was doing things, like it's quite intensive. I video call every 2 weeks, and I give a lot of my time, and I can only look after a team of 30 to 35 athletes comfortably, and then anything else I'm like overextending myself for. And so I'm splitting that up into two so I can actually take on a bigger team and just have athletes, and then more of like the weekend warrior recreational athletes, still people that want to
Yeah.
do the work. And I'm also opening up a nutrition clinic.
Damn.
So everything's happening at once. I don't even know how I'm fitting this
Yeah.
podcast in.
Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate it. Oh, that's cool. Because what I was thinking is like, it's great to fulfill your visions and your goals, but yeah, I was just interested. Like, I don't want to delve into it too much, but I was just interested to know what would be next on the horizon now that the thing that you've wanted for a number of years has finally been realized. So it sounds like you've got some exciting projects in the works that I'm personally interested to see how those are going to turn out. I mean, I feel like it's in your nature to make them happen. So no doubt you're going to make it happen.
Thank you so
That's it.
much. Yeah.
That's all right.
And
To put you
oh,
go.
sorry. I was just gonna say that in Taiwan, I was having this very thought. I was like, I've I've built my business up to, this point where I could just chill out on the beach in Southeast Asia and write training plans and, just like take it slow a little bit and just focus on training and whatever. Or I could come back and take on all of these business opportunities and make my life hell and not get any sleep. And yeah, so that was a very real like dilemma for me. But ultimately, I chose this because I'm kind of just like on this relentless pursuit of progression, I feel.
Yeah, and also like what is better for your mental health and what's a better long-term strategy? Chilling on the beach and like just doing what you want for a bit? Or is it like seeing how far you can push yourself and seeing yourself work towards meaningful goals? I feel like the like chilling out on the beach strategy is nice for a couple months, but like eventually you're going to get the itch for something. And I feel like it's seeing yourself work towards these goals that you've set is so beneficial for your mental health. So at the time, short term, it might be stressful and like all that kind of stuff, but like over a long term, I feel like it's going to be a lot more fulfilling
Yeah.
than the like relaxing sort of strategy.
It already is really fulfilling.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's a sense of self-actualization, right? I'm like, oh wow, like I can do all of these things, like I feel empowered that I've got control of
Yeah.
all of these things, of my life, of my goals and dreams and whatnot.
All right. Before we wrap it up, I wanna go over one more tangible thing. So we
Sorry, I
started the
gave you like
podcast
no
off.
tangible things.
No. We started off with the cutting down.
Yeah.
So we started off with that scenario, and now I want to do the opposite scenario where if I was that same, can't remember how old we said he was, 22 years old, let's say, and I'm wanting to put on muscle, but I haven't been to the gym much. I might have gone a couple times, but I don't really know much about the gym. What would be your first things that you would recommend that I do in order to start putting on muscle?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would split it up into training and nutrition. Let's go over the training one first. For training, I just want you to go into the gym. If you're someone that doesn't have any experience, go into the gym and figure out what you like. I don't care if you're doing the bro split, push-pull legs, upper lower, full body. Just go in, see what you like first. Once you figure out what you like, cool. Then you can maybe be a little bit more intentional about it. I would recommend maybe getting a personal trainer to look over your form. But I would take everything that they say with a grain of salt. Use it for reference, right? They could know what they're talking about. They could be really good. But it's like scratching a lottery ticket, you know?
Yeah. Like any service. That's how I describe it. There's good hairdressers, bad hairdressers. And that's just another service. Yeah,
cool. Exactly that. Don't take it for
gospel.
Don't take it for gospel. Thank you. But I think ultimately finding a plan, a structure that's going to work for you. If you're someone that's super busy and you can only train 2 days a week, just go with that, man. That's okay. That's totally okay. So how you should train? Okay, I would break it down into. Do you want to hear like optimally what we should do, or like practically what we should do?
Well, it comes down to the individual. Let's say this person has the capacity and the ability to do what's most optimal. And then, because if we go over that scenario, it's easy to see how we could retract that and make it more applicable to other people. But let's say this 22-year-old guy, like, he's just going to uni, maybe works a part-time job, doesn't have many obligations, has the capacity and like a little bit of like money to play with if it comes to, having a gym membership and like that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm going to give you a cleaner soundbite. So,
5 exercises to put on muscle.
So I would split that up into training and nutrition. Let's talk about training first. As far as training goes, I would aim for about 12 to 20 total sets per muscle group per week. 12 to 20, but no more than 10 sets per session. Meaning that you would probably go 6 to 10 sets twice a week. Instead of doing 20 sets of chest on Monday, let's do 10 sets of chest on Monday and 10 sets of Thursday. Same with back, Tuesday, Saturday, and your legs, Wednesday, Sunday. You following?
Yep.
Of these total working sets, what a total working set means is you are taking it very close to failure. So I would say failure being, you're trying to grind it out with good form, of course, trying to grind it out and you can't get a rep in. So that's failure. I would say leaving 3 in the tank is fine. So it should feel really hard, and the way that the weights move should be very slow, but it's not like an absolute grind where your life flashes before your eyes and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
So that's like really close to failure. That's probably failure.
Yeah. So that's like reps in reserve, like leave it like 2 to 3 reps in reserve or something like that.
Yeah. Reps in reserve. I was trying to steer away from like the RP reps in reserve to make it simple.
Yeah. No, I gotcha.
Yep. That's how I should train. That's how I would train. Sorry. And maybe also be a little bit more intentional with how you want to build your physique. So what does your physique look like at the moment? How do you want your physique to look like in the future? So if you're trying to go for a look that is, like a super V taper, like a fucking upside down Dorito, Illuminati kind of shape, you probably want to be giving your shoulders, maybe your back and your chest a lot of time. Your arms, you could probably, push to the side. Not that we want to neglect them, but also we don't have all the time in the world to train. So if you can't have it all, just focus on the important parts. And don't get anxious because you're not training legs because, never skip leg day, bro. Like, bro, if you don't want big legs, don't train legs. Right?
Simple.
Fuck the memes. Do what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, like, if you're trying to go for a summer physique, a beach ready physique in 6 months' time, and you're someone that only wears board shorts, and you don't actually care if your legs end up looking jacked or not, well, why would you train legs with this specific time frame that you've got?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's also, like, if you're going to be doing this thing for a long time, you might look at it in 6 months, okay, I'm doing this. But if you look at it over the span of 10 years, there's a lot of time to train these other muscle groups too.
Yeah.
So like this, like that, like you say, the initial stage, maybe you do just want to get that like beach ready body. So you do prioritize the upper body and know that, okay, in the 6 months following that, I can prioritize my legs a bit more or whatever it may be.
Yeah. The first body part that I wanted to bring up was my abs. I was 11 years old at the time. Some genetic freak next to me had abs, and I was like, bro, how do you get those? And he's just like, sit-ups. Literally just sit-ups. Just like Tony from the bodybuilding gym. I want to join the team. What do I do? Get shredded. Sweet.
Yeah, simple.
So he said sit-ups. So then I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to execute it and see what it does, right? I'm not going to say that it's the way to go or it's not the way to go. I'm just going to do it. So I did 100 sit-ups, minimum. Some days I went up to 300 for some reason. I was on some like Bruce Lee shit. Yeah, I had the haircut too.
Oh, damn.
So 6 days a week minimum, and I did that for 3 months. And by the time that I was 11 and a half years old, 6 months had passed, I had abs.
Wow, look at that. Sit-ups.
Wow, look at that. For my muscles to grow, I just need to train it. Ah.
Yeah. Simple.
So
I
simple.
like that. Yeah.
I can't believe I get paid to do this. How do I lose weight and build muscle? Do you go to the gym and eat fruits and vegetables?
What? I have to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Where do I sign up?
So good.
Okay, so do you feel like we covered the training element for that?
Yep.
That's that person?
Do you think we covered the training for that?
Yeah. I feel like that's some really sound advice. And I quite like how you encourage this person to train with a higher frequency and more intensity too. Like if you want to do that, there's nothing wrong in doing that. I feel like maybe I blanket it and think that a new person doesn't want to be in the gym 5 days a week or 4 days a week. But like, hey, if they can and they're not getting injured and their recovery is there and they're loving it, like, why would you take that away? I think it's just like you said at the start, knowing that it's okay if you can only go twice a week.
Yeah.
If you can only go once a week, that's still all good.
Yeah.
But covering that optimal scenario, why not go 4 or 5 days a week if you can?
But there's optimal versus a minimum effective dose, right? Yeah. And the bridge, I think the gap between what's optimal and what's necessary for a little bit of growth, like I feel like the actual result is more like this, right?
Especially starting out, right? Like any stimulus to the body, like can yield some results quite quickly.
Yeah, definitely. So I think if someone's just starting out, 3 sets per muscle group, twice a week. And I'm only saying 3 sets because they're probably, their form's not the best yet. The mind-muscle connection isn't there. If their form is like impeccable, I would be putting my money on the fact that they could get away with 1 set per session, twice a week, push into absolute failure on some Dorian Yates shit, and they would grow. Yeah. If their form is impeccable.
The assumption is that it's probably not, but if it was, 100%, because that stimulus, like to those muscle groups, would be so foreign that they would try and adapt as quickly as they can, right?
Yeah. You should try and do this because you're a PT as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should try and do that to some newbie
As a case study.
And just see how much they grow. I mean, just get a super busy person. Just just like, hey, trust me on this.
Yeah, trust me, bro.
Yeah.
Me and my mate talked about it on the podcast sometime. So that's the training component. And what about the nutrition? Because let's assume that this person is eating like kind of just the average person, not too bad. It's not super great. Maybe they're at like 18 to 20% body fat again, not super overweight, but not shredded. Where would you sort of start with their nutrition, bearing in mind again it's like we wanting to put on muscle phase? Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So we've covered the training. Into the nutrition side of things. How do we put on as much muscle as possible? In terms of nutrition, I think I would focus on two main points again. So the first point is frequent protein doses. And the second point would be to make sure that you're eating enough so that your performance isn't affected, right? So we want to use training performance as a marker for how much you're eating. And this is actually what I do. I don't really follow a plan in the off season because I'm about living my life, right? I don't want to be cooking all the time in the off season. Like if I need to shake up 2 scoops of protein and smash a bunch of fruits on this road trip, I'm going to do that, right? I'm not going to measure my rice. So I use performance. Is my recovery going to shit? Am I feeling better with each session? Do I feel like I'm performing the best that I could perform? If no, okay, maybe you need to eat a little bit more. If yes, cool. Can we push it up more without putting any more like excess fat on?
Yeah.
So that would be the practical.
And how would you, from a beginner's perspective, how long would you say it would take for them to establish knowledge on what feels like good performance and what feels like shit performance? Because obviously in the first like 4 to 6 weeks or 2 months, they're not really got a baseline.
Yeah.
On don't want to throw a spanner in the works there. I rate that advice though, because that while you simmer on that for a sec, while we've been over here, because we haven't got body weight scales, we've only just bought food scales. We've been like kind of on a plan, but we've really been using the performance as a measure. Like her sessions have been great. She's like the strongest she's ever been. I feel real good. I feel super strong. So like I fully resonate with that because I get it. Like we're like intuitive eating, but our training performance is great. So we know that, okay, cool, I'm in a sweet spot with my food right now.
Yeah.
This is feeling good. My physique's holding the composition that I like and where I want it to be. But if we're that beginner, how would we know? Yeah, like I said, how do we know what is optimal performance or not? Like, would you still use that measure for a beginner? Obviously, it's very broad. It's not a specific person. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a super solid point. Yeah. I guess if it was a beginner like that, okay, I think the performance thing is just a bit confusing.
I like the first point you mentioned about the protein, though.
Yeah.
That would probably be the first port of call. But it was interesting. You said, was it frequency of protein intake? So not necessarily amount, but protein frequency.
Yeah. So, okay, I think beginner, maybe we can just focus on the protein side of things.
Yeah.
So, I would focus on getting 4 doses of protein a day. And with these 4 doses, I would ideally like to space them out 3 to 4 hours in between. We can go with 5. So I guess you could argue that the more the better. We could go for 5, but also like we start to run out of hours in a day, right? So I think 4 is like this happy, practical number. Yeah. The reason why we want 4 doses and spread out. Sorry, the reason why we want to spread them out and have them frequent is because there's a concept called the anabolic threshold, and you know what? That's too much, eh?
I think it's good as long as you can put it into layman's terms.
Yeah. Okay. Let me think of an analogy because I'm good at that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, what happens when we eat a dose of protein that meets our requirements? And FYI, that dose of protein is about 0.4 to 0.5 grams per kilo of your body weight. So, for your 22-year-old male that wants to build muscle, who is 80 kilos, 0.4 to 0.5. I like to use 0.5 just because nothing bad comes out of having too much protein, but we would rather hit the target than miss the mark. So it's like an insurance policy.
Not to make it too complex, but for extra clarity, is that lean body weight, or like what if I'm at 80 kgs but I'm 25% body fat?
Yeah, I think
does that still
blanket? Yeah, I think the 0.5.
Yeah,
I think the 0.5 is based off of, just body mass. I think lean body weight is a little bit higher, but I don't know the number for that.
Yeah. For that one, I go 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. So let's say I'm 190 pounds or something like that. So I should be roughly eating 190 grams of protein.
Of lean?
Yeah.
Wait, no, you're not. You're not 190
no,
lean, bro. You're Ronnie Coleman or some shit.
I was about to say I haven't taken my body weight in a long time, so I was just spitballing. But like that's like a typical like measure that people use is 1 gram per lean pound of body weight.
Yeah. I personally like to work in just body weight. I think lean body mass is a little bit hard because you know how you're going to get someone's lean body mass.
Yeah.
And those machines are full of shit anyway. Like it's so inaccurate.
Yeah.
So
I like your way better because that lean per lean pound of body weight confuses me. So I rate that.
Yeah. Practicality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like, I talk about like optimal and stuff, but optimal isn't optimal if it's not practical. Right. So ultimately practicality wins. So 0.5 grams per kilo of body weight. If you're 80 kilos, consume 40 grams of protein per meal. It's a little bit more than what you need, but it's an insurance policy. We would rather cover it than not. What's an extra 12 grams or what's an extra 10 grams of protein, right?
Yeah.
So when we have an adequate dose of protein, that is within the guidelines, the equation that I just said, the body goes through a recovery response, as you will. And more specifically, I'm talking about the maximal muscle protein synthesis response. So basically, imagine you have a dose of protein meeting those requirements. Your muscle cells go, sweet, all hands on deck. Let's ramp up the muscle growth within the cells and grow some muscle, baby. Because we just trained, the muscles are sore. We want to adapt to this so we can come into the gym and lift a little bit more next time. So that process starts to happen. We start building a little bit of muscle. There is also a cool down period with that process, right? Your body's not going to regulate that muscle growth machine, and then you're just end up, growing muscle for the rest of your life. No. So it lasts for about 3 to 4 hours. And this cool down period, so during this cool down period, any additional doses of protein that you consume doesn't really do anything. And let's link this back to the RPG game analogy.
Yeah.
So it's like you've got a signature skill, right? Your character's got a signature skill. When you enter a boss fight, what do? You press that signature skill, and then a cooldown starts to happen. You can keep clicking the skill, but if the cooldown hasn't completed, nothing is going to happen. And so that's what I'm trying to do with the regular protein doses, right? I wake up, I hit my skill of, hey, time to grow some muscle, buddy, right? Starts the 3-4 hour cooldown. And then, 4 hours later, it's lunchtime. Hit it again. Grow some muscle again. Hit it again. Grow some muscle. Because your body is a dynamic process. Every time you have a meal, it's recovering, it's going anabolic, putting on fat as well, right? But then once you've digested the meal, you go catabolic. And then You eat a meal, you go anabolic. And so what we want your body to do in terms of muscle growth is we don't want it to go like that because it doesn't go like that. We just want the curve to look like this. So we want how much muscle we build to, overshadow how much muscle we lose. And that's the process of muscle growth.
You explained that really well. I really like that analogy too. That hits
I'm
the
glad.
nail on the head. Yeah. I feel
All the boys are
only
like,
question
I get what this guy's talking about. All the girls are like, what the fuck?
What's that?
What's RPG?
Yeah, RPG. So my only question with that equation there, so obviously there's the windows where it's cooling off and it's not really, there's not much point in consuming more protein that time. So that equation that you chose there per meal, so 0.5 per kilo to create your meal target, obviously more in that window wouldn't be better then.
No.
If you get what I'm saying. So I'm consuming 40 grams at the optimal time, but me consuming 60 grams isn't adding any additional benefit. It's not a linear thing where more is better.
Nah. I mean, it's certainly not doing anything bad. But then if you're in a position where you're trying to lose fat and you're on a calorie deficit and you only have a certain amount of protein that you can eat in a day, well then, if you need to have 40 grams per meal and you've only got a 160 gram total intake, but you've got to split that into 4 to fit the regular doses, well, if you have 60 grams for one meal, one of your other meals has to be 20, right? If you're good at math, you're following. If you're not, I'm so sorry.
I'd like.
Yeah. So then by default, if you have 60 grams in that meal under those parameters, and then you have, you're going to have a 20 gram that's not reaching the anabolic threshold. And so you're not going to get a maximum muscle synthesis response. You're still going to get some response, but we're putting in all this effort, training at the gym, paying attention to when we eat, whatever. We may as well make it optimal.
Yeah.
But if you can't make it optimal, that's okay. Eat your 160 grams of protein in one go.
Yeah.
You sick fuck.
Make it practical, like you're saying.
Yeah. Make it practical.
Yeah. Now, I think it's still on the same vein. And this is something that has kind of been going through my head personally at the moment, because I've come over here. I've wanted to start doing some running. I went to a jiu-jitsu class last night. I still feel really beaten up from it.
I bet.
So I'm wanting to. I feel wrecked, honestly. But anyway, so the question is, and it can still relate to this guy who is wanting to put on muscle, and it's really specific to my scenario. What would you do when someone is wanting to put on as much muscle as they can, but they've also got these other interests or pursuits that fitness related, like running or like jiu-jitsu? What would you do to alter their plans so it's not just like, nah, you can't do that? How would you cater for those extra activities?
Yeah, that's where it gets interesting. Because then you have the recovery demand of all of these other things to worry about too. I guess the most appropriate answer would be about periodization, right? If you've got a jiu-jitsu comp or something coming up, and you're within the weight class limit or whatever, but you're also into bodybuilding, we probably wouldn't put you on a cut. We would give you a lot of calories and make sure that you have make sure that you're in the right nutrition environment for performance. So I guess just identifying the priorities of what you're doing. So your jiu-jitsu comp is probably not going to line up with your bodybuilding comp that is going to line up with your half marathon around the bays. If it does, If it does, you need to,
Pick one.
yeah. If it does, you need to
Yeah.
accept that you're not going to do well in all of them. But that's okay, because it's not about doing well. It's about enjoying it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So
Yeah, that's a solid answer. It's definitely priority management, and it makes it, like the example that you use, especially obvious if you're training for an event. Like, I've got a half marathon in 16 weeks. Okay, well, with your weight training, let's take it from 5 days down to 4 days and take your running from 2 days to 3 days.
yeah.
But what about specifically, would you say if someone's just introducing running into their split into their schedule, not necessarily training for something, would you recommend that they consume more calories on their running days or more calories across their week or more protein, or how would you recommend they cater for this extra calorie expenditure if it's consistent? Like, I'm running twice a week now.
Is this person building muscle or?
Yeah, they go to the gym and they're wanting to build muscle still, so they're not in like a cutting phase or anything.
Okay. They're not in a cutting phase, and they're probably eating at maintenance or surplus.
Yeah.
Cool. I would say if they're already eating in a surplus, running, I would say just see how it goes first and experiment with maybe eating a little bit more carbohydrates the day of the run, before the run, the night before perhaps, or maybe even having a pre-workout carbohydrate drink, something that's not going to give you a stitch like when you're running, and then see, cool, does loading up more calories give me a better run, whether that's time, feeling, just movement in general, and that's where it goes back to being like performance focused. It could do a lot to your run, and if it does, that you probably weren't meeting the requirements before. But if it does absolutely nothing, well, then it's probably useless, and you could get away with like not adding in the extras.
I really like this obvious cause and effect approach that you take, and it's clear that you meet people where they're at. Like, you don't have this like one like cookie cutter approach. It's like, okay, what are all the variables of this person now, and how can we meet you where you're at most appropriately and most optimally? And it also sounds like you put a lot of like trust in the person to measure these variables themselves as well. Like, hey, you go and do the thing and you report back to me. Like, yeah, I'm your coach, but I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it. I want it to be based on the biofeedback that you receive when you do the thing.
Yeah. I'm not about to give a man a fish. I'm going to teach you how to fish, right? Because we get more fish that way.
Yeah, I rate that, man. We've been talking for a little bit. I feel like we might wrap it up there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, man?
Good, cool. Yeah.
I really appreciate the very tangible stuff and hearing a bit more about your journey. I feel like I personally learned a lot more about your journey and even this tangible stuff as well. So I really appreciate your time, man. And how I like to wrap it up, I feel like I've actually forgotten to do this on the previous few episodes, but that's okay. But how I like to wrap it up is, if people want to find you, follow your journey, follow your clients, maybe learn a bit more, where is the best place for them to find you?
You can find me. I'm most active on Instagram, so it's at Nutrition by Henry. And you can follow along for my journey where I really want to take out first place at the Oceania ICN Pro Show in Classic Physique. So I came second last year. All right. So I'm hoping this year is my time to grab that first.
Surely. I'm personally invested in that. So
thank you so much.
I'd like to see that too.